Okay, I thought I might do a little video here and tell you guys how I wound up with this little motor and what all it's been through before it got in my hands. And just thought I'd tell you guys a little bit about it here. It was the Applegate family that had it. There was a father and mother, Bill and Myrtle, and they had two sons, Butch and Alan. Okay, Butch, the older brother here. He drove first. Here's a newspaper article back in the 1970s when he was in sixth place in the points at Kingsport Speedway. And it mentions Harry Gant and Morgan Shepherd and L.D. Ottingers and a few people there that they're racing against him. And he tells about starting out with an 049 Plymouth, and then they went to a 68 Chevelle. And then in this newspaper article, he talks about they're building a Nova, which was the final car that they had on their race team. But anyway, old Butch here, he drove first. I think he might have started driving in the early 70s up to maybe the early 80s or something. I think he went into services sometime in there. And when he got back, I think he might have turned into the crew chief, and his younger brother Alan took over. Alan was the last one to drive. And I think in 1989 is when I got, or when they raced this little engine. They took it to their car to Nashville Fairgrounds, and it was a one-race comeback. They hadn't raced in several years, and they had a one-race comeback, and they went down there and raced at Nashville. And I looked up the records, and it said he finished like 34 laps down because he had an oil leak, and they come in and repaired it and went back out. And I'm sure that's true, because when I bought the motor, this oil pan, it had all kinds of silicone globbed up all the way up through there real thick and wide, and around these hoses was globbed up. And you could tell somebody was fighting an oil leak. So, I mean, it showed exactly what the computer said happened. But that was the only race that they ran. So it ran 166 laps. I looked, I took the spark plugs out, looked down all the cylinders with the bore scope I got over here. And it had real high dome pistons that looked like they were shaped like the combustion chamber would be, with the valve release. And then the crosshatcher looked real good. It looked really good on the inside. It looked like a one-race motor. And I don't know if I told you much about these little adapters here. You can take them off and it's got the regular pattern on it. But these heads has got raised runners, and the bottoms has been filled. You can see it here. And they recommend, since it's over 500 horsepower, to use like 1 7/8 or 2-inch headers so it can breathe. The regular 1.5-inch headers that everybody offers for these 4.3s and V6's, the primaries are all 1.5. So I'm searching for a set of headers somewhere around 1 7/8, something that'll let it breathe, because I don't want to choke this motor down. I mean, it'll knock at least 40 or 50 horsepower off if I put a smaller diameter header on it. And this little toolbox here that Alan gave me, I went to his house. Alan, the younger brother, he's still alive. And when I told him I'd got the motor off of Butch's widow, see, Butch passed away. He had a car accident and died at home like a little while later. And Alan said, come up here and get this toolbox, I'll give it to you. So Alan just gave me this box. It was spare parts for the motor. I don't know how he wound up with the toolbox, and his brother Butch wound up with the motor. But anyway, it's got a bag here that's got 2 more pairs of rockers, lifters, all the stuff you need, like if it was an 8-cylinder. Because when they got this motor, Alan said they drove over to Mooresville and bought it. And he said they had to partially put it together. The short block, it's a Ray Baker short block, but a guy named Carmack done the heads, and the intake's ported to the heads. But I think Alan said they had to come up with their own rocker arms and push rods and little things like that. It was kind of a long block without the little things like that. And they must have fabricated them in oil pan too. But that explains why there's a pair of everything left, is they went from V8 to V6 and they just used the rockers that they'd already had. And that's the story on those things. And anyway, there's a little restrictor plate in here, and another carb spacer, oil filter adapter, Moroso oil filter adapter. And it come with that's a Moon 3.5 gallon oil tank. That was before it was Moon Eyes. It just says Moon on it. And then all the hoses, AN lines I'd ever need. And I even got 4 really nice jack stands that younger brother Alan had made in technical school, he told me. I wound up with those. And I thought I'd just tell you guys, you know, where the motor really did come from. And also, I have this book here on Kingsport Speedway. It's 1974 season. And I got to looking through it. And let's see here. Yeah, there's a picture of Butch Applegate in it. This is 74 season. That's when he was still driving the Chevelle. That was the second car they had. And I guess younger brother Alan was too young to drive at the time, but yeah, that was his 68 Chevelle at Kingsport Speedway. And then I flipped on over through here, and at the time in 74, he was 12th in points out of about 90 some, but I'm sure some of them were just out of town, just come here every now and then. But that's the Applegate family there that, like I said, Butch drove first, and that's just a little, I don't know what you'd call it, credentials or whatever, showing, you know, that where the motor coming from and that these guys really did race. And I'm happy to have this padded quick release steering wheel. But I'm either going to make a display, get the engine running on a stand and take it like car shows, fire it up. That odd power V6 with open headers, that'd be something that most people's never heard. And I'll either do that, or I'm going to find me a light body, you know, rolling chassis, so I can drop it in and make something out of it. But I guess I'll take it to the machine shop. I've been advised by a couple of people, somebody might need to look at that. I'd hate to fire it up and break a valve spring or something, but the older man at the machine shop, he's been a racer his whole life, and he's retired, but he's still doing a little bit of stuff at his house. He said I could bring it over this winter and he'd check it out. So he's raced his whole life, drag raced, high RPM, so he would track records and all, so he'll know what to do with it. And here's a couple of things that was in that box. There's their T-handle for their transmission. And right here, this goes on the end of a gas can. It's got the plunger on it where they'd hold that gas can on their shoulder and run up and plunge it in the side of the car there. That's a neat little piece too. But that's the history of the Applegate family. I think Alan said maybe, I don't know if it was his mom or dad, one retired in like 88 or 9. And, or whenever, somewhere around in there, maybe 87. But they drove over there. I don't know if it was out of their annuity or what, but he talked like they paid around 20 grand or so for this back in 87, maybe 25, he wasn't sure. But that's Ray Baker bought him in from Mooresville, North Carolina. And it's General Motors Performance Parts Heads, ported by Carmack, whoever he was. And NASCAR cross ram intake. It's a good combination. It's a complete engine, and it's unmolested. Like I said, they raced it in one race at Nashville Fairgrounds, finished 17th. Alan won $900. And it was brought home and put up in the garage, and Butch actually lived in that garage for a while he was building his house. So he was right there with that motor. He took good care of it. He didn't let it rust or anything happen to it. And his wife, she let me have it, and you know, he was a lifetime neighbor. I remember when I was a little boy, we had bicycles, and we'd drive down there, and we wanted our bicycles to look like a chopper, and couldn't get the handlebars to stay up, so Butch would wheel our handlebars for us so we could pop wheelies and stuff, and look like a chopper. And then I remember them firing their car up. I just lived maybe 75 yards or 100 yards away, and it didn't matter where you were in the neighborhood. It was just instantly, it was just a great sound. They really knew what they were doing there. Butch was a real mechanic, tuned on the engines. And there in the later years there, they done a little better. That's when Butch was in charge of keeping it running, and he was letting his younger brother Alan drive. I mean, Butch was a driver too, but he ended up putting his skills on the crew chief part. But anyway, that's the story of the Applegates. And I just thought I'd share it with you guys, and that's how I wound up with my little engine. Thank you guys. See you later.